In our first story, the government says its operation to rid the nation's water bodies of illegal miners has so far seen more than 130 mining equipment seized. President Akufo-Addo on Wednesday deployed soldiers to seize all equipment being used to mine along the water bodies. Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwul has been given an update on the exercise so far.
The operation commenced at 06 hours on Wednesday, the 28th of April 2021, with simultaneous activities on the western and eastern banks of River Pra by the infantry elements, while the Navy and engineered troops conducted riverine operations on the river. The Ghana Air Force provided air cover and took aerial photographs of the operations. And by 18 hours, which is 6 p.m., when operations were halted for the day, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested at Atieku near Chufuprasu in the Central region. The Chinese, Wei Gang Ying and Wei Gang Ming, have all been handed over to the National Security for further interrogation. They will be prosecuted. Ladies and gentlemen, it is noted that since the commencement of the operation from Wednesday the 28th to Thursday 29th, the troops have destroyed a number of equipment, including 9 excavators, 127 chamfine machines platforms associated with mining equipment, 1 fuel pump. Furthermore, the following items have been seized and will be destroyed, except items that will be used as exhibit in courts. 8 by 24 plate batteries, 1 pump action gun case, a generator, Huawei phone, chainsaw machine, 8 raincoats, fuel filters, non-citizen Ghana card, ID card, 2 drilling equipment, and 2 boots. This will be destroyed except equipment that the police deem necessary for their work for prosecution. Otherwise, everything on site will be destroyed.
Now, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the head of that ministry, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, outlined the critical issues that informed the policy formulation.
The first measure we took was to direct the Forestry Commission to cease the issuance of forest entry permits for purposes of mining. For those who are familiar with the processes leading to actual legal mining in forest reserves, having secured all your permits from the Minerals Commission, the EPA, and so on and so forth, you require a forest entry permit in order to mine in a forest reserve. If you are going to mine at a place which is not a forest reserve, you don't require a forest entry permit. But if it's a place which is designated as forest reserve, you have to go to the Forestry Commission for a permit in order to be able to mine. So we'll put a freeze on that, which means there cannot be further mining in forest reserves. I have to clarify that. For the enterprises or operations or companies who have already acquired mining licenses or mining leases and gotten forest entry permits and are mining and following the protocols, the environmental protocols, they have what we call accrued rights. So this instruction will not take a retroactive effect. So it will not affect them. And there are a good number of responsible large-scale, small-scale mining schemes going on in forest reserves with the right permit. But in the future, no more forest entry permits. At the level of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, we have put together a monitoring and evaluation team headed by the Honorable Benito, MP from Wabieja, who is the Deputy Minister in my ministry. And that monitoring team is going to come out with a statement this afternoon. We're establishing a situation room. We are putting out telephone lines. Ghanaians can call to report that I live in Apamprama. There's a forest reserve. People are still engaged in prospecting there, or people are mining a forest reserve. The monitoring team will then alert the National Security Architecture apparatus so they can move in. In addition to that, and in accordance with the highest standards of transparency, I have here in my hand a list of prospecting recognizant licenses within forest reserves, those granted and those pending. And we have 105 of them. You have them, the particulars are name of company, name of forest reserve, location of forest reserve, municipal district, location of forest reserve region, date of forest permit, date of expiry, and all of that. I have instructed both the Minerals and Forestry Commission by close of working day 7th May, Friday, to publish this list.
Now, Michael Kojo Pepra is president of the Concerned Small Scale Miners Association. He is on Zoom for the reaction to the briefing. Mr. Pepra, thanks for joining us this afternoon on Joy News. What's your initial reaction to what you've heard from these ministers?
I think everything is in order. We only want to achieve what the president is also trying to achieve, because everybody is against illegal mining in the country. So whatever we need to do to make sure the right thing is being done is what we are also supporting.
Right. Now, earlier we had a conversation and you expressed some concerns that the military force alone cannot be effective enough. You've also heard from the Lands and Natural Resource Ministry. The minister has been talking about the freezing of some licenses, all to encourage responsible mining. What do you make of the addition of these measures to the military action?
I think this is not the first kind of operations we've experienced in this country. Subsequent operations have been done with the military. And then we don't see the difference between this one and the others. But then I think their operation is meant to clear the people on the water bodies. That is outright illegal. And then people are mining in the forest reserve. Something that we are also speaking against, because when the last two dies, the last man will take it. So everybody is against illegal mining, the degradation of forest, and destruction of our water bodies. So in so doing, we support any government that wants to take that road. So whatever it is, Ghana must survive, and Ghana must.
Right, Michael Pepra is the president of the Concerned Small Scale Miners Association. Now, former President John Mahama is pushing for the deployment of professionals to thoroughly police the 2024 electoral process at all levels. According to the 2020 flag bearer of the NDC, the party has established that, quote, illiterate party agents, unquote, were deployed to man the stations negatively affected the fortunes of the party. He argues that the expertise of the NDC professionals would be required in the transmission of electoral results and collation of same, and also to ensure the integrity of the 2024 polls. The NDC, after the declaration of the 2020 presidential polls, dragged the EC to court to challenge the outcome of the polls amidst claims of electoral fraud and other irregularities. A petition which was quashed by a 7-member panel of the Supreme Court. Now, speaking at an annual conference of the NDC Professional Forum, he charged the professionals to offer to become electoral officers during elections, a move he believes would serve the interest of the party.
As has been said, elections are won or lost at the constituency level on the ground. And we must ensure that we have more professionals, more educated people coming into play in respect of policing and monitoring the elections at the grassroots level. And so collation of results is an important activity that the expertise that you people carry can help in terms of collating the party's results in good time, and then also transmitting the results. I mean, a lot of you in your professional work have had to use information technology, IT, And now IT is becoming, very important in terms of transmitting results and getting results in good time to be able to undertake the political decision-making that is needed. And so we will expect that you would offer your services more to the party in these critical areas. You must also not shy away from becoming officers of the EC. You have the qualifications to be presiding officers and other electoral officers, and our opponents have taken advantage of it. And so you find that when the EC advertises, many of their people apply to become presiding officers, and so they are the electoral officers. And of course, you know what kind of advantages that can give them. Every region was asked to account for its performance in the 2020 elections, and they came with reports. It's obvious that they have all begun to do their own reviews of what went right or what went wrong in their regions, because you should have listened to some of the regional reports, and they were very interesting. There was one region, I won't mention which region it was. They said, some of our party agents were illiterate, they couldn't read or write. And then the chairman asked, he said, but who appointed them? Who made them party agents? So it's obvious that they themselves have started doing a review of what went right or what went wrong, what they did well, leading to a positive outcome in the region, and what they could have done better that led to, a negative outcome.
Now, he also alleged that the 2021 election petition, was orchestrated to aid chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Menta, to evade accountability.
The court case has ended. We were scored 7-0 on many occasions. We asked for replay, 7-0. And then one time it even went to 9-0. And then the final score was 7-0. And so it brought to an end the processes of the presidential election, especially considering that we decided not to go for a review. And so it means that we have brought an end to the presidential election processes, even though we disagreed with the ruling of the court because we believe that a lot of things went wrong, and it was most unfortunate that the court did not give the opportunity to the Electoral Commissioner to come and defend her own declaration of the presidential results. We have no option as a democratic party that upholds the 1992 Constitution. As I said, we are bound by the ruling of the court. And so it brings to an end the presidential election petition and everything to do with the presidential election in the 2020 election. And somebody announced that in 2024 we're not going to court.
Away from the NDC, 21-year-old Mason Richard Atta was lucky when a judge fined him 360 Ghana cedis for stealing. His inability to pay the amount, however, meant that he had to serve a 1-year jail term. After serving 8 months, though, an agenda by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to help free petty offenders has helped secure his freedom. The human rights body believes minor offenders such as Richard should be made to serve non-custodial sentences and not thrown into jail. Maxwell Agbagba has more on the campaign by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to keep minor offenders out of prison, of course starting with how Richard and his friend Sami gained their freedom.
It was a normal day for Richard until his friend asked him for a fun trip. He says after he complained about his financial difficulties, his friend later managed to convince him to snatch a woman's handbag on the street. An alarm was raised and he was nearly lynched. My mother and family members did not visit me at the police station. I am happy I'm free now. I did not get anyone to pay the 360 Ghana cedis fine for me. Prison is not the best place to live. We did not get good food here. The soup was like a mirror. I saw my face in it anytime I'm served. Humans are not supposed to eat that. I would advise young people to be careful out there.
What happened before you come there?
Richard's mate at the James Camp prison, Sammy, says he abandoned his work when he started facing financial difficulties and started breaking into the homes of his neighbors. He was arrested on the day he stole 1,300 Ghana cedis and a flat-screen television.
I'm a stubborn. I forget the work I do. I go ghetto. I follow friends, go stay ghetto, and live ghetto life. Follow friends, do bad things. You are breaking people's. If not cash, you go straight. If you meet you collect your things and them things. Then I know how to collect something from someone. The thing is not yours. Do my own. If you sleep, I can come your room inside. Can break, take your things. If you're not there, I can break your door. Come steal you. The time you will come, you know. You will come see someone steal.
The push for non-custodial sentences recently increased after the incarceration of actress Rosemond Adade Brown. Well, the deputy director of prisons here at the James Camp prison, Raphael Tuekpe, believes that non-custodial sentences will help decongest Ghana's prisons.
Was somebody going to steal one fowl, and then he's being thrown into prison for 3 years? Calculate the amounts that the government is going to spend on that person. If you ask me, it would be ideal if that person is sent to a poultry farm somewhere to support the poultry farm for even 6 months. It will help save the money that they will spend on the person as a feeding on him.
The Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative is concerned about the plight of the two men and many others across the country. Hence, its agenda to push for decriminalization of minor offences, which it believes will result in more non-custodial sentences. The CHRI paid the fines of the two men and now have regained their freedom. Here's the group's director, Mina Mensah.
We are focused, as much as non-custodial sentencing is one of the areas that we are looking at, our focus on the decriminalizing of petty offences. So there are some offences in our books that have colonial antecedents. For example, loitering or not being able to pay for a fine, which is why we are here today. And those are things that were set up during the colonial era. And these laws still remain in our books. So because of that, we have people in prisons who could have been put to other uses. That is where the non-custodial sentencing comes in. So if the person cannot pay a fine, what you do is maybe community service. For example, we are crying about our streets being filthy. There are things that can be done.
Let us get on Zoom now and speak to Andrew J. Karte, who is a lawyer. Counsel, first of all, who qualifies or what qualifies as a petty offence?
Hello, good afternoon, Daniel.
Right, good afternoon, Andrew. I hope you can hear me. It sounds like we have a difficult connection, but we were asking what qualifies as a petty offence. Right. Okay, we will re-establish a connection with Andrew J. Karte so we can get a better understanding of what these issues are. In the meantime, the National Association of Graduate Teachers is calling on the government to put in place urgent measures to deal with the current economic hardships, which he says is hitting hard, as the Ghanaian teacher, president of Nagrat Angel Carbonu, who spoke for the group at a press briefing, expressed disappointment with the announcement of a wage freeze for the next 3 years. Rather, he says, a substantial increase in the salaries of workers will help cushion workers from the economic pressure affecting teachers.
The factors that might have caused the economic situation we find ourselves in today is not our major concern than the fact that the economic situation is hitting hard on the Ghanaian worker and indeed on the Ghanaian teacher. An immediate remedy ought to be found to ameliorate the situation we find ourselves in. We are celebrating May Day 2021 in the midst of a sudden escalation of prices of goods and services. A bag of cement, which we bought for 34 Ghana cedis last year this time, is now going for 50 Ghana cedis. A truckload of chippings we bought for 9,900 Ghana cedis last year this time is now going for 2,400 Ghana cedis. In fact, building materials have had their price generally gone up. Not to talk about food items that we buy in the markets on daily basis. The numerous fuel price increases have also contributed to the general price increases that have affected Ghanaian workers in general and teachers in particular. A substantial increase in the salaries of workers will help cushion workers from the economic pressure affecting us.
Away from that story, residents of Sakra will know in the Ashanti region fair, the community may be cut off following the deterioration of a bridge linking the community to other parts of the district. Their fears have heightened after half of the weak bridge caved in at the onset of the rains. They say contractors packed out of the community after the vice president and other MPP stalwarts used the roads to attend the one-week rites of the late CEO of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Ewuse-Friye, aka Sir John. Love FM's Nanaya Ojima has more.
Drivers have to skillfully maneuver their way to cross the bridge, which has partially caved in. With the continuous rains recently, the concrete culvert of the bridge is being washed away. Contractors have abandoned the road, heightening fears of total collapse. Francis Owusu spoke to the media.
No construction work has been done on the road, and as a result, the bridge between Ulo and Asrumaso has caved in, which has made the portion of the road not only a death trap, but also unmotorable.
The community, led by Queen Mother Nana Amanyako, thronged the streets to register their displeasure at government's delay to fix the deplorable road. She believes the contribution of former NPP General Secretary Kojo Ewuse-Friye, who hails from the community, is enough reason to influence the rehabilitation of the road. The Queen Mother threatened to stop government functionaries from attending the final funeral rite of Sir John if the road is not fixed. She says, "We are pleading with government to complete the project for us. If they refuse to do so, we will bury our deceased without them." They should at least honor Sir John with this road. Meanwhile, District Chief Executive for the area, Osei Bonsu, says road projects in the Kwabri East District have progressed at a slow pace for financial reasons. He says there are efforts to get the contractors back on site.
The contractor be a certificate and
all the contractors here in the district are telling me that they are waiting for their certificates to be honored. It means they do not have money, but this contractor has assured me he will resume work next month. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
You're live on Joy News today. Let's go back to that earlier story where 21-year-old Mason Richard Atta was lucky when a judge fined him 360 Ghana cedis for stealing. His inability to pay the amount, however, meant he had to serve a 1-year jail term. After 8 months, though, an agenda by the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative to help free petty offenders has helped secure his freedom. The human rights body believes minor offenders such as Richard should be made to serve non-custodial sentences and not thrown into jail. Let's now speak to Andrew Ni Ejay Karte, who is a lawyer. Andrew, first of all, what qualifies as a petty offense?
Your viewers and listeners. And so if you go through our statute book, you are not likely to find any clear definition of what a minor or a petty offense is. However, from practice and of course from a lot of other explanations, minor offenses or offenses are usually classified, one, according to the length of punishment or the length of custodial sentence that you would serve if you are found guilty, and also, of course, the degree or to the extent to which your offense or your act has an impact on your victim and the society in general. And so, in a nutshell, a minor offense is likely to be one whose punishment is 2 years or below, or a fine of 500 penalty units or less.
Now, Andrew, some persons say that the idea that for offenses like this, we should rather give a non-custodial sentence is definitely a solution to the congestion in our prisons and a good way to get convicts engaged in community work. What's your position on this?
All right, so of course, the concept of punishment is one that has invited a number of jurisprudential thoughts and arguments. And so there are a number of reasons why punishment should be exacted on somebody who commits a particular offense. One of them is retribution, i.e. an eye for an eye. And so if you kill somebody, you ought to be killed for you to experience what it feels like to be killed, or for your family to experience what it feels like to be bereaved. We also have reformation and rehabilitation and a number of other salient theories that inform punishment. Now, on the issue of whether or not we should look at removing custodial sentence in respect of minor offenses, there's so many arguments, and a number of which I agree with fully. You and I are very much aware of the fact that our prisons are congested. It goes without saying, we don't need to belabor the point, that our prisons are congested. And so when we keep on pushing people into prisons, which cannot already take more people, then there is a problem. Also, we are looking at the issue of reformation. Now, let's look at this. You may not know, but one offense we have is behaving irreverently at a funeral. And so you go to a funeral and you misbehave, if I put it loose. It's a punishable offense, and you may go to prison for that. Why should we let somebody, just because he probably goes to oppose something happening at a funeral and behave irreverently according to the mind of the judge, go and live in the same premises with a repeat offender, probably who has engaged in armed robbery several times? Are we going to achieve the ends of reformation? So these are the many questions that we need to ask ourselves. The financial burden on the coffers of the state cannot be overemphasized. We keep talking about this day in, day out, that our prisoners are suffering, they cannot be fed, they are congested. There's so much burden on the state. So why should we keep pushing people into prison for offenses which are considered minor?
Right. So what are some of the engagements you've had with government, Andrew, for you to achieve this, your one goal?
Of course. So, I mean, one of the things government started was to ensure that prisoners on remand for no reason are taken out of prison, or are get a chance to be heard for their cases to be determined. And this is a step in the right direction.
Right.
Now, even amongst us as lawyers, so many arguments go, even when we appear before the court. And I guess this is the reason why there were many debates in respect of the Equapim Polo matter. That for an offense as this, looking at all other factors, both internal and extra factors surrounding what was happening, we need not have given her custodial sentence.
Right.
And so as long as when we appear before judges, we always want to argue our case. We always want to impress on the court to, as much as possible, sway away from giving custodial sentences, especially when there is always an alternative in most cases for fines to be paid.
Thank you, Andrew Carter, for joining us this afternoon on Joy News Today. Now, the government has introduced fresh, tighter measures as it seeks to prevent the importation of COVID-19 cases into the country. In a travel advisory, the Foreign Affairs Ministry asked the general public to either cancel or postpone all non-essential travels to countries with exceedingly high COVID-19 infection rates. Here's the head of our health desk, Fred Smith, with details of the measures.
Government says all travelers arriving in Ghana will have to self-isolate for 10 days, even if they test negative at the airport. For those arriving from COVID-19 hotspots, the advisory says they may even be subjected to repeat tests on the third day, even if they tested negative on the day of their arrival. All PCR test results from countries of departure will be taken through special verification to weed out fake results. And for those leaving Ghana, the advisory says only test results or certificates bearing trusted travel or biomass codes will be considered valid.
Now, Dr. Da Costa Abuaje is the Director of Risk Communication and Community Engagement of the National COVID-19 Response. He has been explaining this advisory.
It's really working. Can you tell us which countries these increased numbers are coming from?
Let me be honest here. You see, I'm the one in charge of risk communication. Stigma and discrimination is actually something that I will not really want to, obviously. So I don't want to stigmatize any country. I don't want to. The only thing that I want to tell you is that we have the data of the countries that these cases are coming from, and we have put additional measures in place to make sure that we curtail the virus.
Dr. Abuaje, forgive me for interrupting, but this is a global health crisis. Ghanaians continue to travel to many, many countries. If there are countries where the PCR tests are unreliable, according to the Ghana Health Service, should you not be informing Ghanaians so that when they can make decisions about whether to travel to such places or not? For instance, if and you can confirm this for me if I'm inaccurate, but I understand that airlines have been briefed that the majority of the numbers that came in were from China. So if this is the case, should you not inform Ghanaians so that they can make decisions about whether or not to travel to China if it is likely that they are going to come back with a fake or a false negative result from there?
So now, you remember what I told you, we have put in place a system to check fake certificates. So we believe that this system that we've put in place is going to help us. So I'm not going to mention any country, any country to stigmatize any country of this. We have issued travel
Dr. Abuaje,
advisors.
I don't know if this is stigmatizing the country. I mean, I really don't want to travel somewhere and come back and be quarantined for 7 days. I don't want that. Now, as a Ghanaian, should I not be informed that that is likely to happen to me if I travel to a particular place? Also, if we're trying to protect our borders.
So you can obviously do, there are various forms of doing it. You can actually categorize it under continents. Like you can say when traveling to Asia, you have to. But I have a problem mentioning names, and I don't think it conforms to my standard.
Meanwhile, government is expected to take delivery of some Sputnik vaccines. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, joins us via Zoom with what we know so far. Fred, before we get to the vaccines specifically, how is the rate of infection in the country now?
Well, Daniel, I'll come back to that. I'll give you that information when I fetch it. But to talk about the vaccines we are expecting in the country, we had information that AstraZeneca, 350,000 of them are supposed to arrive today. We understand that there have been some difficulties with that, and so we are not going to receive those 350,000 from the Democratic Republic of Congo. That will be our share of the 1.3 million that the COVAX platform is redistributing among Ghana and some 5 other countries. The DRC could not utilize all of these. They were given 1.7 in March, but because their systems for immunization is not as strong as some other countries, for instance, Ghana, which can do about 90% coverage, the platform intends to redistribute this so that they don't expire. And in June, if we don't get these vaccines utilized, then we will miss out on the vaccination so far. So in terms of those vaccines, that's the latest we have on them. And the other one we are expecting is the Sputnik vaccines, and we understand that those ones will also arrive on Sunday, which will be the 2nd of May.
Right. Fred, do we know if these vaccines will go to those who have received their first doses and are expecting their second ones, or they would go to persons who have not been vaccinated at all, who have not received their first dose at all?
Yes, so what the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health intends to do is to ensure that those who have the first jabs, they had to postpone the second jabs, and that has taken us to 12 weeks. And that's the maximum window that the WHO and the vaccine manufacturers recommend. And so that extension has been done. And so it's most likely that these are the persons who will receive the vaccines, especially the 350 that will be coming in. That will still not be enough because, we've vaccinated over 800,000 people. And so we will still be expecting more to complete those who took the second dose. For those who will be taking the Sputnik, if we start administering the Sputnik, there will be completely new groups of people. We're not sure if there will be health workers and other frontline staff, but there will be a completely new set of people who will be receiving the vaccines.
Now, Fred, you are constantly in touch with the health authorities. Is there any reason why, that we have been told at least, that the Ghana Health Service update page on their website is not working now?
Well, it worked yesterday. It's only today that we are struggling to have information from it. And I'm sure once their technical team are alerted, this will be resolved as soon as possible. It's happened before. And at that time, it was when the page was being redesigned. And fresh information was put there. This outbreak is evolving very fast. New things come up. We're not updating the page with vaccination information. Now we're doing so that has to be on the site. Now new things are coming. They have to add some new information, and all of these things the changes can result in downtime on the site, and so the technical team.
Fred Smith, thank you very much. He heads our health desk. You're live on Joy News today. It's time to talk about business. We'll be right back with more on that. Stay with us. In business, fan milk distributors and agents have been rewarded for their performance in the first quarter of this year. The promotion, which ran nationwide from January to March, ended with 80 highest-ranking agents and 6 ranking key distributors as winners. The grand event was held at the premises of the Fan Milk Distribution Center in Kaswa in the Central Region.
Fan Milk has rewarded its sales partners for their contribution to the business in the first quarter of this year. The reward came at the end of the promotion dubbed Achadia Kessie, which started in January and ended in March. AB Global Limited, Al Afajua and George Tabiri Enterprise emerged as the highest sales performers in the country. Speaking to Joy Business, Managing Director Zioberton Yeo said, despite the impact of COVID-19 on the business, Fan Milk will continue to play its role in facilitating and supporting social progress and economic growth.
It is good to remind ourselves that we have about 1,000 of them across the nation because we are driving what we call a proximity model. And COVID has really seriously shaken our business and our ecosystem, including the more than 10,000 vendors that we have every day on the street. We ask ourselves the question of how much more can we support them? The best thing we came out was in terms of working capital. So giving them fridges, giving them tricycles, and a wonderful car like this would go a long way to help them continue doing the business. We know that the best way to help someone is not always to give him the food, but is to help him to farm. This is our way of feeding our agents, and we hope that we inspire all the players in Ghana to follow suit. We want to say thank you to all of them and let everyone know that we will continue to play our role, and we take it very serious in Ghana. The role of facilitating and supporting social progress and the role of facilitating and supporting economic growth.
Overall best winner Elizabeth Afayuri, a key distributor in Accra, told Joy Business she won the promo out of hard work and dedication and expressed her excitement to Fan Milk for appreciating her.
It's all about hard working and dedication. In fact, we went through so many challenges this year when the new trade terms was brought in. But we sat down with my team and plan that what are we supposed to do. I also take advice from them. Look, let's listen to what they tell us. So the little advice I would tell my colleagues are that they should listen to them and go according to the new trade terms, and then they will also reach where we are. I said very big thank you to Fan Milk. I wasn't expecting it.
Meanwhile, Fan Milk has introduced 2 new products onto the market, Nutri-Day and Punchy Peach, which are nutritious and immunity builder for all consumers.
Now, ahead of the May Day celebrations tomorrow, the Union of Industry, Commerce and Finance Workers, UNICOF, wants its social partners, governments and employers to re-strategize to keep business performance on a high pedestal. This, it believes, will trigger job-led economic growth, and COVID-19 pandemic impacted significantly on the economy last year as the rate of growth was a paltry 0.4%. John Amegashi is the General Secretary.
We are expecting the government to assure us of sustainability of jobs, which is key. We are also expecting the employer to assure us of sustainability of jobs and enhancement of remuneration. As I said, despite the COVID, we are doing very well. The economy is doing very well. For instance, if you had looked at all the balance sheet published by the banks, almost every bank is doing well. And we expect that it would enable the businesses to borrow and to enhance their operations as well. So, as I said, the COVID, yes, but we need to adopt other strategies to assume that there's nothing at all known as COVID.
You're live on Joy News today. That ends business. Up next is sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi.
Hello, welcome to Sports on Joy News today with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Earlier today, President Nana Akufo-Addo had a meeting with chief executive officers of the banking sector as government continues its efforts to raise $50 million for national teams' continental and international assignments. The president told the CEOs attempts for the finance ministry to bear the cost of football teams' preparations and participation is like squeezing water out of stone, and has solicited for their support to make the country's targets of winning next year's AFCON and reaching the semi-final of the World Cup a success.
I can't come and ask you to contribute $25 million
without myself making a contribution on behalf of the state and the government. After a great deal of haggling and approaching the Ministry of Finance is always like squeezing blood out of a stone. The minister has agreed that he will contribute $10 million of this amount as government's share of the funding. So it is the balance that we're looking for. In normal times, best of times, I mean, this amount of money would be very easy to raise within these few minutes that we're here from the people who are gathered here today. But as it is, we know the difficulties. But nevertheless, we want to make a collective effort to assist the Black Stars. Everywhere in the world, success on the football field, sports, has a way of also igniting and inspiring national success.
And there will be another meeting next week, Tuesday, as they continue their efforts to raise the $50 million. But let's do something on grassroots football. The GFA launched a juvenile league, a competition designed to unearth young football talents. Former Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah, a beneficiary of grassroots football, says it is a great initiative worthy of commendation.
I'm very, very happy that they launched the juvenile, we call it Coast, that they wanted to bring it back, because standing here this morning, I'm a product from Coast, and I mean, not seeing Coast going on, I think it's very, very bad. I mean, when we look at the under 17, the under 20, we can see that we are struggling today because there's no grassroots football. So if they are going to start thinking of bringing it back, I think that is very, very good. And I must say again that the FA, I think they have planned well and they know what they are doing. So let's say kudos to them, and we will see what will happen. Well, I think whatever is going to start, we have to support. We have to promote the juvenile football. Some of us, wherever we find ourselves, because we have been there before, we have to talk about it, and that's the way that, I mean, the message will spread, and then at the end, all of us will be seeing, I mean, players who would tend to be a big players like what we did. So, I mean, being a former footballer, and I will still be in football, I think these are the things that we wish to see in the future.
That's all for Sports on Joy News today with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. For more sports, you log on to myjoyonline.com/sports. Up next is Showbiz.
Good afternoon, welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News. Today, our high life musician Kwame Eugene has revealed his focus is to help effect positive change in society and not his fashion sense. Speaking on Daybreak Hits this morning, the musician says people must understand that criticizing his fashion sense is the least of his worries.
I feel happy, actually, and I laugh about it because it makes me realize plenty of people don't get job do. So when I'm going there, like, go where no money ready, and I see people. I mean, like, people can go into the depths of their heart saying mean things. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they think there's a solution to their problem because me coming there.
You're chilled.
I don't really get a problem like that. It's not a problem. I mean, there are bigger problems in this country we need to look at that we are not looking at. We still have a large rate of unemployment in this country. We are not looking at that. And we still have, I mean, people are dying, people are being killed, Galamsey is going on, armed robbers are attacking people. There are lots of problems in this country. And my focus is on myself. What impact I can do for the community, what I can do for the community, how.
And this is where we end Bulletin of Joy News today. My name is Daniel Daze. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Later stories there. Tenants who allegedly killed 4-year-old in Obuase arrested. There's also that story from John Dramani Mahama and the Chief Imam is featuring heavily on My Joy Online's homepage. Get the latest news from there and enjoy the weekend. See you Monday.